Hey everybody, this is Adam. I'm here with Josh Roshan and Steve Hanley, and we're doing a Zoom discussion. So we're using a software called Zoom, and what we wanted to do was just have a conversation that we've been having behind the scenes all week for a couple of weeks now about what's going on in the economy, in the markets, and we thought, why not include you guys? So we do a fair amount of writing to try to communicate what's going on and how we're managing portfolios and that sort of thing. But we thought coming to you in this visual form would be helpful. Secondarily, this is a tool that we've been using for client meetings. So when folks want to get together and talk about, what's going on or any changes they might be interested in making in their plans, we'll suggest a Zoom meeting so that we don't have to get together and risk a health issue because of the virus. So hopefully this gives you a sense for how this technology works and maybe brings any concerns you have down so that we can feel comfortable just having meetings like this for a while until the coast is clear. So I hope that's okay. With that said, what we wanted to do is give these guys an opportunity to talk about what's going on, what we see happening in the markets and elsewhere. So um, again, Steve Hanley, who is the gentleman on my right in the sweater, he's the investment strategist, and he does the day-to-day portfolio adjustments, all that sort of thing. Josh, on the other side, he is a certified financial planner, works on our team, and he does a lot of what I do, but I think he's better looking and smarter. So we wanted to feature him and just have a conversation. So with that said, thank you guys for joining us. You guys are in the office. I'm at home in my underground bunker. So this is a unique way to have this conversation. But so can we just dive in and Steve, if you wouldn't mind sharing just a brief summary to start here, and then we'll just take it from there. What is going on?
Yeah, that's a good question. I'm not going to go crazy on. People are watching the news, so they know very well certain elements of what's going on. But I would like to focus on the idea that what's going on is fear and emotion and panic. And that is a common thing that happens when we go through times like now, even though it is historically unprecedented. But what isn't historically unprecedented is the fact that fear, panic, and emotion, the uncertainty has gotten to a very high level. We saw this in 2008, and we saw it in 2001. And so this is not unprecedented from the fact that we are seeing a lot of uncertainty in the markets, and that's creating fear, not only in the markets, but elsewhere. And with that comes declines, and that can be scary at times, but we'll talk a little bit more about that. But right now, we definitely are seeing a level of panic that we have honestly not seen really since probably 2008. I don't think we're at that level, but we are seeing high levels of panic at this point.
I guess with that said, the question I've heard talking with some folks is this 2008 all over again? Is this different? What is different? What is the same?
Yeah, it's always interesting, right? Because when we meet with clients or you meet with anyone, it's like, oh man, I should have invested more in 2008 after 2008, or I should have invested more in 2002 after 2002. So after the rebound, everyone always looks back at these moments and says, oh, I would have definitely done that, right? Well, here we are in that exact moment. And what are you doing is my question that I always ask, because it's not any different from the fear and the uncertainty and the panic sense. It is different. They're always different. 2001 was different. 2008 was different. This one is different. They all have differences. And of course, we could spend an hour talking about the differences and the way it's playing out. But at the end of the day, we know, and we're very certain that 5 years from now, 10 years from now, 20 years from now, we're still going to have a very strong, a very robust U.S. economy. We're going to have a strong market. We're going to have some great companies out there. And so we're going to have some wonderful opportunities really in the midst of this to capitalize really on what is going to be fear and panic. And at the end of the day, the market is doing what it always does, similar to 2008. When uncertainty gets to a really high level, it's just trying to find a price. It's just trying to figure out, when there is uncertainty, there's a number of buyers and sellers. It's an auction. And right now we have a lot of sellers and not as many buyers. That doesn't mean the price is reflective of the company value. It just means there's a lot more sellers because there's a lot more people that are fearful and panicked right now. So in that way, that it's very different in some sense, but it's very, very similar to all the other recessions and declines from a fear component.
So, yeah,
And
so
Nick Murray said that a bear market is driven by people who are selling at panic prices, thinking that this time is different, and they're selling to people who are buying, knowing that this time is no different. And
interesting.
so I think that just says a lot about, while coronavirus is different than the financial crisis of 2008 or September 11th terrorist attacks in 2001, the outcome will not be any different. Just what's causing this is different. So
Sure, the cause is different, and then the timing will be its own timing too.
yes,
Every virus is a little bit different, but you still get better. Had to say it. So
Sure, sure. Yeah, and yeah, there is that. It's interesting because, yeah, not only are you dealing with just the financial ramifications, but there are just the health issues. There are real health concerns that people have, and it doesn't appear to be um, affecting everybody equally. But those two things in combination, my sense has been talking with people that we're going to get through this. We just don't know quite how. Um, so I guess that kind of begs the question: should people be doing something, making adjustments financially, Josh, to their planning, or Steve, to their investment portfolio? What kind of adjustments should people be making, you think?
well, I think from a planning perspective, keeping all of this in context is important. And so when you look at a financial plan, investments make up about 1/6 of a financial plan. And so the other things that we're looking at budget, we're looking at risk management, we're looking at taxes, we're looking at retirement planning, we're looking at estate planning. And so when we look at all of those other areas in a financial plan, yes, investments are a piece of that, but they make up 1/6 of that piece. And so if you're working right now, you're still earning income, money's still coming in, and so you're not necessarily having to rely on your investments for um, your livelihood. And if you are in retirement, your retirement plan should have some income strategies that are in there. Your investments are still generating income and interest, and so you're able to live off of the things that those investments are creating. So yeah, we want to take a look at investments, and we certainly don't want to minimize them, but if we put them in context of the total financial plan, they should not be the predominant focus of just good, sound financial planning. And when we're going through times like these, we can't control what's happening in the stock market, but what we can control are what our spending habits look like, minimizing the use of debt, and just making sure that we are living by faith and not by fear.
Hmm. Excellent.
yeah, I would say obviously a good plan is made for these times, and the same is true on the investment side, which is a good investment portfolio should be made for these times. And what we're doing behind the scenes for clients, we don't just stick our head in the sand, because this is a very opportunistic time. And we are very blessed just by our philosophy and the way we've set clients up. We own some of the strongest companies out there. And there's a reason, right? Adam and I and Josh, we have this philosophy for times like this, which is we want to own companies that are strong in cash, have strong balance sheets, and can weather these kind of storms. And this is why we don't go out and buy companies that are leveraged or higher in debt that could really get taken down in an environment like this. We are really comfortable and we sleep really well at night knowing that, 10 years from now, Visa is still going to be around. And Visa probably is going to still be used the same through this. It's just people are going to be swiping for toilet paper rather than for coffee. Sorry, Adam, I had to say that. So, and then we've got Costco. I mean, Costco is going to be around. We added them right when this started to happen, and people are flocking to Costco. So there are good companies that are going to actually see a benefit through this. And then other companies we own, which are Berkshire Hathaway, they've got over 100 billion in cash. We've got Apple with 100 billion in cash. And so Microsoft, Johnson and Johnson. I mean, you just go down the list here, and these are strong companies that are going to be around for a long, long time. And so we're not very concerned how we come out of this. We know we will come out of this. The interesting thing will be how much we can rebound and these great companies can really capitalize on what's going on during this environment. And so in many ways, I'm excited about that. And then I guess to your other point, Adam, there were actions we took to the extent that right when this started, we immediately stress tested all of the portfolios to make sure that we owned what we believed was the strongest companies and we had proper diversification. And we did immediately eliminate, in hindsight, it looks fantastic, but we did immediately eliminate all restaurants. We only had one, Cracker Barrel. We eliminated commercial real estate without realty income. We eliminated Welltower and Ventus, which a lot of the companies we eliminated were a little bit weaker balance sheets, and they were a little more exposed to the areas that are getting hit right now. And in the time, we also raised a little bit of cash in that process, which I still have about 10% in many portfolios that are moderate and a little less than the more aggressive portfolios. But we're now in the process of looking for deals. And so the deals are there, and I'm just working through the research to see what great companies can we pick up during this time, because there's going to be some great value coming out of this. And so we're really pleased, pleased to own the companies we have and very thankful to own such strong companies.
Sure. Yeah. And for those that are watching this, Steve, he's not excited for declines, but he does get excited when deals present themselves. So what we've been talking about is those companies that do look really favorable now on a price basis. Because again, we've all seen a lot of growth over the last few years, and that's been wonderful. And in some ways, that makes this decline, dare I say, a little bit less painful so far, because we're so far ahead of the planning projections that there's a little bit more margin in there. But that said, when prices go down, Steve gets excited because that's when we can buy really good companies to own for 10, 20, 30 years at a discount. So we're there, but that does... I've seen this from some folks where they say, is this a good time to buy? Well, very likely as compared to 3 months ago. Yeah. We want to make sure that people have enough cash to see them through. Again, we may not have seen all the job losses that we're going to see. So we're managing these opportunities from an investment perspective with just the planning needs of having enough cash to get you through to whatever this looks like on the other side. So it sounds like that. Yeah, go ahead.
Adam, if I could ask Steve a question. So, you talked about some of the changes that you made, but even in the midst of this, recently in our bond position, you made a change as well, which I thought was a very opportunistic change that you had made. Do you want to just share really quick on that?
Yeah, I mean, we're well diversified. When you look at a moderate account, we have a certain amount of bond positions. And when interest rates go down as low as they did, when the Fed slashed to zero, when we saw the 10-year get very, very low, we were trying to make small common sense decisions through this. And one of those was, we're not going to get much more return on parts of the bond portfolio. So we did move half of the core bonds as the strategy, but we moved half of that to cash when we saw bonds give us tremendous returns in a very short period of time. And so when I looked at that and the way the bond market was reacting and giving us such high returns over such a short period of time, it just made a lot of sense that, well, right now we want to protect that. And so we did move some of that to cash, because it's the bond market, to me, going forward, is the one, after we're out of this, we can sit back, take a look at, and I'll be analyzing a lot to see what we want to do in that arena. Because that'll be a little, obviously, they've had a lot of returns here, so they're not going to have as many returns going forward. On the flip side, the stock market, as you just pointed out, Adam, anytime's a good time to invest for 10, 20, 30 years. But now is a lot better than it was just a few months ago. And so things are definitely starting to get on sale. And when we do recover, obviously taking advantage of this will just help us continue to stay on track and exceed financial planning, hopefully. So.
Yeah, it seems that so much of what you're saying works well with enough discipline to look ahead and to know that at some point we'll be looking back on this saying, wow, okay, that was really a challenging time. There's no question. People are suffering in all sorts of ways, but looking back, it'll be seen as an opportunity to have doubled down on an economy that has a lot going for it. So, and you're making those adjustments in the portfolio, which I think it's helpful for people to understand that we aren't just sitting on our hands. There are things that can be done in a very prudent, responsible way within the portfolios to make the best of a pretty lousy situation, quite frankly. But so I guess let's kind of wrap this up, if you will. So, what kind of closing thoughts would you give somebody that's sitting there right now and they have, as they sit here now, good income, things are okay for now. What might help them sleep well at night, knowing that this is a really uncertain time, that they're just a lot of questions. What would you say to them to help them through this?
On the investment side, if you're an income taker, I'll speak to our income taking audience first, or just more moderate and conservative clients. We are invested and diversified well. So when the markets get hit hard, we're not down nearly as much when you hear the headlines of the stock market or the Dow Jones. Remember, you're not participating in all of that. And so we have a lot of safe parts built into the portfolio that are doing perfectly fine right now. So if you ever needed to get at the cash, we've got all this extra amount that hasn't declined. So you could get a 1, 2, 3 years worth of income if you needed to. And that's in addition to the income stream. And when we invest for income, or we're looking at dividend paying companies, again, these are companies we stress test for these situations. We don't go into companies unless they can hold up during these type of declines. And the Warren Buffett quote, you want to be careful that anything you own, you want to make sure if they shut the stock market down for 10 years, you're comfortable owning it. And that's very much a philosophy that we bring into this, which is it's got to pass the ability. If market has to shut down for a year, these companies are going to come out just fine on the other side. And so that income is just fine right now. We're keeping a close eye on it. If there's a couple companies that look fringy, like they might not be able to pay the dividend, well, there's some great deals out there right now. So we can always move from point A to point B, but that income should stay secure through this year and through next year. And obviously this is a temporary thing. So we will be just fine for the income continuing to support the retirees' needs. And we have extra too. So don't put off, if you're going to build that pool this year because you're retired or you're going to do some extra cash and some spending, don't put off that because of where we're at right now. We are still in a very safe position in the portfolios, and you should feel really comfortable with where we are, where we're going to be going forward. So your thoughts on planning, Josh?
Yeah, I was reminded of a quote last night that economic uncertainty is certain. And so while many of the folks that we're working with, and actually we haven't really seen this in many of our clients, but I know that there is a little bit of fear out there. And while I don't want to minimize people's feelings, because I know that people's feelings are real, they don't always tell us the truth. And so I don't want people to be fearful in this time, because fear often leads to panic, and then panic leads to irrational decision making. And so that's why, as a firm, we just stress the importance of planning first and making sure that we are taking all of the steps that we've talked about today, so that we can make rational decisions when there are irrational times going on. So I think that's important, just to make sure that we're not telling ourselves things that aren't true just because we have a little bit of fear that may be taking place. So.
Awesome. Thank you, guys. That's a really good way to sum this up. So again, if anyone wants to schedule a time to talk with us, this is a medium that we can use. We can use the old school phone if you want. We're available. Again, we're trying to make the best use of technology to keep people safe and healthy, because at the end of this, we want to make sure everybody comes out of it feeling good physically and, of course, financially. So please lean on us. Let us be a resource for you. With that, we will sum up today's conversation, but we'll look forward to chatting with you soon. Thanks.